Hi, this is your math coach, Howie Tutman, presenting What Math Should My First Grader Know? I've recorded videos in the four domains or groupings of standards in math for first grade. This video is the fifth of six videos in the number and operations grouping. The video is about finding 10 more or 10 less than a number. If you have any questions or comments, please email me at hrtutman@gmail.com. The complete text that this video is based upon follows at the end of the video. This standard is a continuation of the standards that use place value understanding to add and subtract. So in this particular standard, we would start with a two-digit number, and the standard is looking for students to be able to mentally find 10 more or 10 less than a number without having to count, and also to explain their reasoning that they used. So let's take an example of starting with the two-digit number of 46. So the expectation of the standard is if we ask the student how much is 10 more than 46, we would want them to say 56. So I'm using a number grid here, but the expectation is that students should be able to be doing this without using the number grid. So if you need to, maybe start by using the number grid, showing your first grader, for instance, 46, and if we add 10 more, it's 56. But we want them to be able to get to the point where they can just do this automatically. And as far as the reasonings used, 46 has four tens and six ones. And if we're going to be looking to add 10 more, that means we're going to be adding one 10. So if we have four tens in 46 and we add one more 10, now instead of four tens, we have five tens. So the answer would be 56. This standard also includes students to mentally be able to know 10 less than a number. So if we ask a student 46, what's 10 less? I can show here on the number grid that 10 less is going to be 36. And the reasoning used is if we have four tens, just like before when we were doing addition, we were adding one 10 and we went to five tens or 56. Now we're going to subtract a 10. So we'll have three tens. The six ones remain the same. So 10 less than 46 is 36. And once again, we want students to be able to do this mentally without needing the number grid. If you want to challenge a first grader, you can have them count by tens forward and backwards. Now, traditionally, when people say count by tens, usually they'll start with 10, 20, 30, and so on, and be doing this column here, or counting backwards 90, 80, 70. So each one of these steps is either subtracting 10 or taking 10 less, or adding 10, which is within the standard. But also within the standard would be starting at any of these numbers: 7, 17, 27, 37. That's also counting by 10. It's just that we're starting with a different number, not necessarily a multiple of 10. So if you want to challenge your first graders, I'd encourage you to do this too, and you can do it both by adding and subtracting. But before you'd ask them to try this, just make sure that they have a real good understanding of mentally being able to add 10 or subtract 10. So, using this knowledge of knowing how much 10 more than a number is, a first grader could now use a number line to add a two-digit number to a multiple of 10. So, in our example here, 27 plus 30, our first grader should recognize that 30 means three tens. So, we can set up a number line. we can start at 27 and then we can add 3 tens. So 27 plus 10 or 10 more than 27, our first grader should know that that is now going to be 37. And now 10 more than 37 or 37 plus 10, we're going to have 47. And then finally, we have one more 10 to add, 47 plus 10 or 10 more than 47. 27 plus 30 equals 57. I'd like to look at the number line for also adding two-digit numbers, but before I do, I'm going to look at adding a two-digit number with a one-digit number, just to make sure that our first graders are adding this one-digit number correctly. And then in the next slide, we'll go on to the two-digit numbers adding together. So let's look at adding 27 plus 8. So we start with 27. So we don't have enough in 8 to add a 10, so we have to add single ones. So let's just make sure that your first grader, when they're adding ones, for instance, starting at 27, when they're adding that first one, they add one and they get to 28. One of the common problems that we find with first graders when they're adding ones to a number, so for instance, adding ones to 27, is they start at 27 and they say 1, 2, 3. So on that first one that they're adding, they fail to actually move to the next number and they stay on the original number. And when they do that, they're going to come up one short in the answer. So make sure it's 27 plus 1. That's going to bring them to 28. And now let's add the rest of the ones. Okay, so we added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so the student has now added 27 plus 8 ones here. So the student now knows that 27 plus 8 by using a number line equals 35. And finally, let's look at adding two-digit numbers using a number line. So here we have our numbers 27 plus 34. And there's actually two different ways that we can show this on a number line. And it really doesn't matter which way the first grader uses it, and they'll get the same answer. So first off, what they can do is start with the 27. And I made a little place marker here on the number line, which is probably a good idea to do, and brought down the number 27. So this is going to be our starting point. And we're going to add 34. That means adding 3 tens, which I've shown here, and adding 4 ones. And this is where you can do it in either order. So let's say we're going to add our 3 tens first, because 30 is the same as 10 plus 10 plus 10. So 10 more than 27. Our first grader should know that that is going to be 37. And now what they're going to do is add 10 more than 37. So we'll bring this down. And 10 more than 37, that's going to be 47. And now we have one more 10 to add, and we bring that down. 10 more than 47 will be 57. And we'll bring this over here to show 57. And now we have the 4 ones to add. So our first grader can simply bring down the first one. And remember, 57 plus 1, we don't remain at 57, but we move to the next number. So 57 plus 1 plus another 1. And we have 2 more ones that we need to add. We started with 57, and we've added 1, 2, 3, 4. And we look at our number line, and that has brought us to 61. 27 plus 34 equals 61. The other way that your first grader can solve this problem using a number line is when they're looking at the number 34, they could start with the ones first and then the tens. So starting at 27, I put a little dot on the number line here at 27, they could add the ones first. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to bring them to 31. And then they're going to add 10 to 31 or 10 more than 31. And that should bring them to 41. 10 more than 41. That should bring them to 51. And then they need to add, so they've added one 10, a second 10, and now they have to add a third 10. And when they do that, 10 more than 51 is 61. So 27 plus 34 equals 61. And just one final thought when we're adding these two numbers on the number line. If a student wanted to start with the number 34 instead of the number 27, that would be fine because at this point, the students should know that when we're adding, we'll get the same answer, whether it's 27 plus 34 or we reverse it and it's 34 plus 27. So if a student thinks that it might be a little bit easier for them to start with this number 34 in the number line, they would simply use their starting point as 34, and then they would add 27 to it by either adding two tens first and then the seven ones, or the seven ones first and then the two tens. Nonetheless, they will be getting the same answer of 61. If you're interested, here's the complete standard that this video, finding 10 more or 10 less than a number, is based upon. Use place value understanding and properties of operations to add and subtract. Given a two-digit number, mentally find 10 more or 10 less than the number without having to count. Explain the reasoning used.